All right, I think we've got everything connected and on, so we'll go ahead and call this meeting of the Ashe County Board of Education to order. This is for February the 5th, 2000. Don't look at my notes, 24, I put 23. So I'm still getting used to the new change on there. So we'll start first with roll call. I'll start on my left. Miss Janet Ward.
Present.
Online, we've got Miss Polly Jones.
Present.
Dr. Kim Simmons.
Present.
Miss Diane Eldredge.
Present.
Josh Roten present as well. So we'll start first an open session with the pledge. If you will, stand and we'll repeat the pledge.
Yeah.
Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's the school board.
All right. Next, we've got approval of the agenda. I think we need to make one kind of change there concerning the middle school on there. I did talk to Allison earlier, and what we may do, if it's okay with the board, is to move her report down into action items on there. So if we can move that basically under the where do I have it here? Kind of right after the grant. Under the audit contract. So it'd be kind of, it'd take place in number 6, 6 will become 7. And so on there, that'll put her right in the middle there of everything, since we've had some news from this morning from our county commissioners on that. So any other changes or additions to the agenda?
I have nothing for this agenda, but I'm wondering if we need to get back to the policies and have at least one of those on the agenda. It's taken us several months to get some stuff changed, and we are sadly lacking in some areas. So I would like to ask that we put that on the agenda for the next month.
Mm-hmm.
We actually have a plan for policies that I think you guys will like.
Just get them done.
Get them done is important.
Yeah.
Then you start over again.
Uh-huh.
Do them all over. Okay. Anything else? You know, I entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any other questions, comments? All those in favor, raise your hand.
Holly, can you hear us?
Yep, she's
Yes, I can hear perfectly.
all right. Thank you.
Great.
All right. So now we'll go ahead with comments from the superintendent. I'll turn that over to Dr. Cox.
So it's always nice when you get to start off with good things and celebrate some of the good things that are happening in Ashe County schools. And one of those good things I heard today, which we're really excited about, and I want to invite you all out to the basketball games tomorrow. We have a young lady, Paige Overcash, who is 12 points away from scoring 1,000 points in her career. That's really special. And so I hope you all come out to the Ashe County High School basketball game, and hopefully she will hit that mark. She's an outstanding athlete, but to come out and to share that with all of our athletes. So I'm excited for her, and it's a home game tomorrow evening. So if you guys are watching, come out and see our basketball team play and cheer on one of our very own to have a very, very important milestone, we hope. Also, celebrating a couple of our people who are getting to do big things. Kendra Weinberg was selected as a secondary literacy learning leader for NCAT, and she'll be speaking at NCAT at the end of this month. And again in April in Cullowhee. And so we're really proud of her work and dedication. It's quite an honor to be included as a presenter, speaker, anything at NCAT. They're very highly selective, and one of our very own is getting to do just that. So congratulations to Kendra. And then Again, we have lots of students to honor. We just learned last week that at the state beta convention, so these young people were here a couple of months ago to be honored, but they competed at the state level. And in fine arts, Rihanna Wilson, digital art, Sydney Perry, in jewelry, Sophia Fajardo, William Stone in math, Angela Padilla Calix in Spanish, and Luke Burgeon in social studies all did exceptionally well. And we had placements in the top 5 for several of those students. And so I just wanted to fill you in on their successes since they were here recently. Additionally, lots of different things upcoming, and we will continue to provide you with any updates as we get them. I know Earl sent me a text today that something finally came through for an event that's going to happen at the high school. Earl, can you remind us exactly what that is so I can share it?
Absolutely. It's a national initiative to give kids exposure to career simulators. So behind the high school there at the CTE area, there'll be this giant oversized tractor and trailer park with this interactive trailer full of simulators. It's about a year waiting list, but we applied last year and got on that. And we got the confirmation email we had it, but I'm a little antsy until we got the email today that said they would be here. So our students, high school students will be rotating through that and getting some great career exposure to some very sophisticated simulators.
When is that?
It was the last week of February 26th through March 1. It's that entire last week.
And we'll make sure that you have all of the updated dates and information about it. I think there was a flyer that we had that we can share with you as well. But I think it's a great opportunity for our students. Kudos to our continually successful CTE team and the high school, of course, for making that happen. Wanted to highlight another success, and this is from our school nurses. You know, our school nurses oftentimes, they do their job behind the scenes. And since COVID, we haven't heard a whole lot from our school nurses out in front during board meetings, but our school nurses have gotten together to create a scholarship for an Ashe County student that will be continuing their education in the nursing field. And we're just excited for any opportunity that we can create for kids. But thank you to our school nurses who are making that happen. And more details will be made available at a later time, but I wanted you all to know that our school nurses are continually thinking about children, and this way, of course, adds to our post-secondary focus. And then another exciting thing that to announce, last week, we found out that we have been awarded a $300,000 safety grant, and that school safety grant it will provide everything from school, new arms for our school buses that have LED lights that can be seen even in the fog. That was a thing for safety, to door locks, upgraded cameras throughout our buildings and places where they may be 20 years old and can't see a whole lot. There's a lot of different things that we're able to purchase with those funds, and we're just thankful to the team, Anthony, Amy, Jamie, and others who contributed to making sure that we are able to access those funds. And the $300,000 was one of the highest awarded to a public school district, so we're really proud of that. And then last week, we had a successful visit to our preschool alongside of AppSeed. As you guys remember, we wrote a grant last year to partner with AppSeed, which is for our pre-K students and early learning. So this provided AppSeed touchpads to 3- and 4-year-olds throughout our community. They've given away almost right around 800 touchpad devices, but alongside those devices were learning materials, manipulatives, things for math and early literacy, handouts for parents to say what it means to be kindergarten ready and what are those skills that our children need to know before they're kindergarten ready, such as being an advocate for themselves and speaking full sentences and be able to recognize words on a page of a book. Simple things that some of us might take for granted, but not everybody knows. So all of those materials were included in these packets that were handed out to over 800 families. So we visited the pre-K. It's always a joy going to the pre-K. Terry and her entire staff are fantastic, in my opinion. And we're just thankful for their leadership, but also thankful to have board members who were able to attend. So thank you for coming to see the great things there. And we had some representatives. So Representative Ray Pickett, who's been present at a lot of our events. He came to our middle school visit, which was really great on Friday. We had Representative Elmore, who came to see the touch pads and what we're doing with early learning and to see what kind of investment we might need in early learning moving forward. So thank you to everybody who showed up and participated, and we appreciate your support.
Thank you so much. I will say my little girl enjoys her app seat very much on that. And Daddy likes it in the car too. With the long ride on there. But next we've got public comment. I don't see anything under public comment this evening. We're going to go ahead and go into action items there since we moved the new middle school update down just a little bit. So first item we have on personnel is under action is personnel. Mr. Putman?
Yes, thank you, board members. Good evening. We have a personnel agenda and addendum. I've sent out a couple of emails. I hate doing addendums, and I know that nobody really likes doing them, but we had some last minute things come through that I thought were pressing with time. So I wanted to get those on your radar as soon as possible. So we're seeking approval for those.
Do I have a motion to approve the personnel and the addendum?
I move that we approve both.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I'm concerned about our ROTC program. Mr. Hollis and I have talked several times, and what are we going to do if we don't have it's one of the best programs, I think, in the school. And I would like to see that continue, but it seems to be very difficult to find someone to instruct that. So
We've got 3 applicants, or 3 people that have reached out for his position, so, yeah.
the other one?
The other one, I actually spoke with I've spoke with 2 of the 3 applicants myself. One of them right before the board meeting today, just talking through the process and what the timeline might be. And I asked, I said, do you know anybody that might be a good match for for Mr. Wetmore's former position? We've had no bites on that. And he said he would look into that for sure. But I do feel encouraged that we'll be able to fill Lieutenant Colonel Hollis's position. I feel confident that we're in good striking position for that. So
Will we be able to find a substitute to take that other position until we can hire somebody?
Mr. Farmer and I and Dr. Cox and I and Amanda Coldiron, we've all kind of talked around about if we don't find somebody who fits the military criteria for their funding, we may just have to request some funding locally for a TA type person to be in that room. And I've got my eyes on somebody who I think would be a good fit for that, who's already currently employed with us.
I think it's difficult to run that program by yourself. I think you have to have an additional person.
I agree. And we have put Bill Key in there 3 days a week as a full, he's subbing in there 3 days a week. He's a retired employee. And then the other 2 days a week, if needed, Phil Howe's been going over there to the high school to help. But yeah, not anymore if this agenda gets approved. But anyway, I share your concern for the program. Last thing we want to do is see anything bad happen with that program. We want to see it continue strong because we've had some good leadership there.
And there was one other thing I saw where maybe a school nurse at the middle school. So what happens there if we don't have a nurse? Is that covered by Appalachia? Who has to do that if there's no nurse there?
Not necessarily. We're working on funding for that, but It was a ESSER created position to provide support there. We've never had a school nurse at the middle school per se, we just really had the top dog
Yeah.
support.
Uh-huh.
But we are looking at other alternatives and funding sources.
But the Top Dog Clinic will still be.
Correct. Yes.
And there may be some things that we can do with partnership with the Top Dog Clinic, that can help, in that area.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Hearing none, all those in favor, raise your hand. Well, that's got everybody.
It was really hard to raise my hand on some of this stuff. So, but congratulations.
Yeah.
They'll be here at the next meeting. I'll have a speech for them. We all know that. I'm sure you really will. Promise no hazing.
I didn't.
Next, we've got the Carowinds Festival trips. Minutes. Oh, minutes. I mean, well, I got ahead of myself. And burn. So let's go back to minutes. Sorry, sit back down. On there. So we've got minutes here for the January 8th regular meeting and the January 30th special called meeting with the commissioners. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
I move we approve the minutes.
Second.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, raise your hand. That's what I get for clicking ahead. Now, Carowinds, let's go to Carowinds next. Let's hope we can go to Carowinds. You tell us about it.
All right, good evening, board. Thank you so much for having me on and letting me talk about this. So Carowinds hosts an annual music festival every year. Around when the park opens, it gives students an opportunity and ensembles to come and perform for an adjudication and a rating. I would like to take the Ashe County High School band down there April 27th and 28th. This is a Saturday and a Sunday. It was originally written as April 20th and 21st, but due to some other things, we changed that to a day later. This would include a performance on April 27th at, I believe it's like 7 or 8 o'clock at night. And then the next day would be all day in the park before we left sometime in the afternoon to make sure they still had time to take care of schoolwork and make sure that they're ready for the week ahead. In terms of cost, it would be roughly about $218 per student to attend. This would include transportation, tickets to the park for 2 days, a hotel overnight, transportation, and all meals while they're in the park, along with a free breakfast at the hotel. In the event that a student will not be able to afford this, I am planning to have at least 1, if not 2 fundraisers starting later this month, if not early March. I'm getting with my booster group to consider some options. Some are SNAP raise that the JROTC has done. They did that earlier this year. But also there's a company that sells pizza kits that you can just get mailed to your house that apparently have pretty good margins. So we are considering all options to help and make sure that these students will be able to attend and have a good time. So yeah, I'm just seeking approval for an overnight trip.
I have a motion to approve his request.
I'll make a motion. We approve his request.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Any questions, comments? I will say, many years ago, I performed with the band down there. I'm glad to hear you're performing at night because we performed near the end of May in Charlotte outside, and it was very hot. So I'm glad to hear that they're inside or hopefully inside.
Yes, they will be inside.
And at night. So have a good time.
Students do you have planning on going?
I have at least 30 students that I'm planning to go. I may pull some more from my other ensembles, combine them with a big band, but I'm not sure exactly how many will be going at this time.
I appreciate personnel who are willing to take kids and do things with them on their own time. I appreciate it.
Of course, if I may, while I'm up here, I would also like to invite you out to our first concert of the spring semester. It's going to be March 1st at 7 o'clock in the high school auditorium. This will be our pre-NPA concert. We're going to talk about what NPA is, Sensory Music Performance Adjudication, how that works, and give you guys a little glimpse into what we're actually working towards and what it is that we do in my room every day. So I would love to see you all there.
What time did you say?
7 o'clock.
7.
Thank you.
March first is Friday, I believe.
Any other comments, questions for Mr. Dula? Hearing none, all those in favor of the trip, raise your hand. You're going to Carolyn.
All right, thank you so much.
Are you Dula from Wilkes County?
Yes, Tom Dooley, great descendant.
We need to talk about that. Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you. We'll just keep the trips going. Let's see, Pro Start trip. I don't say you don't look like Miss Sturgis.
I am not, but I'm here on behalf of Ms. Turtle and her culinary students, and we're seeking permission to do the annual Pro Start competition at NCCU, North Carolina Central there in Durham on March 14, March 15. I believe everything is included in the packet. She did a great job typing this up for us. You can see there with the expenses, there is an expense with it, but any expense comes at, it will be minimized to the students as CTE funds, 14 funds, and her fundraising. She does a big culinary night fundraising there at Christmas, and that'll all be covered there. You can see the chaperones. We're taking Miss Finley. She's teaching Foods 1 this semester, and she'll be accompanying her there. And we have 7 students, and with the calendar switch, the 14th will be leaving after school. It may leave a little earlier since it's early release day, and then the 15th is a professional development day. So there'll be minimum time out of school. But we're here seeking approval for Ms. Sturgis and her group to attend the Pro Start competition.
Do I have a motion to approve the,
Move we approve the field trip for Pro Start.
do I have a second?
Becca?
Any questions, comments, free samples?
Yeah, we have to try it out.
Every afternoon they're working. I'm not sure what the theme they'll be working with. To students, we appreciate that. We appreciate that.
They like taste testers.
I like taste.
Tuesday, Thursday.
Tuesday, Thursday.
Lobster, I think.
I believe they were doing some lobster before Christmas.
Okay. Don't know if I'll be there that day.
Came out of the Neat River either, so.
No, it's tasty.
Those are little lobsters. They're bad. Yeah, gumbo. Oh. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we've got the 23-24 audit contract. I think Dr. Cox, you reporting on that one?
Yeah, this will be me. Typically, this would be Amanda. However, Amanda and her team are learning about all the new law changes and things that are happening with our budgets the rest of this week. This is the new auditor contract. This is with Anderson, Smith, and White, and presented for your approval.
Do I have a motion to approve the 23-24 audit contract?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, raise your hand. All right, we're good there. Next, we've got where we added on to the agenda. Listen, we've got the middle school update and some information there.
Good evening, board members, Dr. Cox. So I feel like it's a good day. We went before the Board of Commissioners this morning, and they have authorized an increase to the budget, $6 million. So we have authority to spend $96 million. And this will allow us to continue the design of the program and the space needs that we have been planning up to this point. So all athletic fields will remain, the auxiliary gym and wrestling spaces are all still part of the design, and we still have the terrazzo floors. So it's a good day. So I feel excited about that. So, so at every phase, schematics, design, development, construction documents, we have to authorize the design team to proceed. But since we have made some tweaks with elimination of classrooms, and we did make some changes to the site plan, we need to approve those modifications and increasing the budget so they can move on to the next phase. So that is what I need approval on and action from the Board of Education.
Okay. So I guess you need it in detail then, more or less kind of
Yeah, so.
lump them all
If you
together.
recall, we discussed removing a classroom per grade.
Yeah.
And we made the decision to remove global languages and the revised site plan. That are the basic things.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Do y'all have any questions about any of those things? We kept all the other programs in essence, which is good.
Do I hear a motion to approve removal of one classroom per grade associated with the collaboration space, removal of the global language classrooms, and revise the site plan with soil nail wall and consolidation of the athletic fields?
I so move.
Do I have a second?
Second,
Any questions or comments?
I want to extend my appreciation to the Ashe County Commissioners for their support and trust that we are being thrifty and conscientious of our budgeting with the middle school. And a lot of that's due to you, and we appreciate you as well.
Well, it's been a team effort. Everybody's
It
worked
has.
hard. Everybody's done their homework and worked really hard.
How many, there are like 29 of the designs or something they said the other day?
19 different
19,
site
yeah.
plans.
Yeah.
Everybody's pitched in.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to ditto what Dr. Simmons has said. It's really gratifying to know that our commissioners are behind this effort and that we will have a middle school and a nice one at that. So,
Yeah. I wasn't expecting that response last week. So, yeah, it's good. It's a good time. All right.
All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. You're good to tell them to go ahead.
Thank you.
Next, we've got the school mental health support personnel local report. Ms. Little.
Good evening. Yearly, we have to kind of update the board and the public about our mental health personnel, support personnel in the schools. I've provided a document for you that indicates where we have had changes and where those funds are coming from. And we are, as expected, losing a few positions here and there due to ESSER funding changing. And we are doing our best to maintain other positions as we can.
Do I have a motion to approve the local school mental health support report?
I so move.
Do I have a second?
Second,
Any questions or comments? Well, thank y'all for doing that so much. I'll ask now for a vote. All those in favor, raise your hand. Miss Polly, is that a yes? We can't see you at the moment. All right, I see you're there. All right, thank you. Yeah, you're little bitty on the bottom. Gotcha. Next, I guess you're still up. We've got the safety.
Okay, so, this is just an update on our U.S. Department of U.S. Department of Justice, the first grant that we received, which was Stop School Safety Grant. And this one is called our STAR grant, which is Safety Assessment and Response. And so we were also partnered with RTI for the data and evaluation piece of this grant. And this is just our yearly update on that. So Amy, if you can click ahead. Okay, so what we wanted to do real quickly is just to let you know kind of what's going on, where we've been, where we're headed, and just give you a picture as to what we are seeing, some trends with some safety data. And we also would like to seek permission to do a final staff and student survey this spring with some focus groups, not widespread, but some just to get some of the data continued. So the next slide, Amy, says that what is it? It's safety assessment and response. It was established as our assessment process for responding to student threats. We, as a part of this grant, we've had a threat assessment a tool in place for several years. But when we received this grant, we kind of branched out and found one that actually fits the need better. It's much more conducive to giving students help instead of being so punitive all the time. And we've really worked to build capacity within the school. So part of this grant was we wrote this safety assessment policy, which you guys approved a couple of years ago now. And we have really fine-tuned this threat assessment process and trained individuals at the school level. So if you'll see the little chart down there at the bottom, a student threat is reported. The safety assessment is conducted by, and this is a multidisciplinary team. So folks at our schools that are trained are the school administrators, school counselors, our school social workers, myself, whoever kind of is able to work with that kid and already has a relationship potentially to be able to speak with them and see what's going on. And then, 9 times out of 10, we are putting supports in place for these students. It's not about charging students and getting them in trouble and suspending kids. We're really just seeing what's going on and making sure we're wrapping services around. So the next slide, Amy just talks about that we were funded in 2020 with the Bureau of Justice. And then we had been working with RTI through our U.S. Department of Education grant, and this was kind of a fit to extend on that because what we were seeing was a lot of our mental health concerns. A lot of times, like these students are the ones needing those mental health concerns. So it was a 3-year grant, and due to COVID and kind of some things not happening fully, we were able to save some funds and we were able to get a 1-year no-cost extension. So we kind of are still working through those funds. So one of the big goals of this evaluation was to understand how this process and how we're responding improves safety in Ashe County schools. So year 1, the RTI, who is our evaluator, they conducted a needs assessment within Ashe County schools and worked really closely with them to do that. And then we talked with staff, we talked with students, we talked with district administrators, all those folks. And we really designed a threat assessment response model and a team, which has actually been recognized state and nationwide, with how we're kind of responding to those things. So years 2 through 4, this is what we are continuing to do. We're continuing to conduct threat assessments when something happens at a school, whether that's verbally, in writing, if students writing something in a journal, they're writing something in a paper. We take that threat and look at it, the whole picture, not just the individual part. So we're looking at it, going through this process to make sure the student's getting due process and to make sure that we're addressing it fully for the safety of the school and the staff and the students. And really what we have found, of course, is 9 times out of 10, they need services. So this past March, we were able to do focus groups in several of our schools. We worked with students that were elementary, middle, and high. And then we also were able to do a focus group with our teachers. And so some of the things that the students and teachers said are there, but the things that are kind of in bold I included because it's good. Our kids overall do feel safe at our schools. Our teachers do feel safe that we are supporting their needs. If, when we are writing these safety grants and they say we need new door locks, we need a new bus system, like those are the things we can help take care of. It was noted that a couple of things, students said there were certain parts of the building that maybe aren't monitored as well. I think that's very typical that we have, let the teacher or let the staff know. And then teachers have said at times they don't know the process, and we want to take that from the teachers. They just have to know who to report to. So there's a safety team in each school. We review that each year. Who do you go to? We don't want teachers to feel like they have to take care of that because that's overwhelming. So we want them to report it and us to be able to help them. And then just the next one is a chart just about some of the initial trainings that we were able to do, and then the number of threat assessments that we have actually done per year. That last column is not full yet, but we do have threat assessments, I think, at every school except maybe Miss Williams' campus. So as you can see, the very first year, I know that it looks like it was worse, but it's actually good. And the reason it's good is those things were being reported. Do I think we had more threats in 22, 23 than the year previous? No, I think they were reported and dealt with because we have this process and it's clearer on what we're doing. Okay, and so the climate surveys, these were our students, and, you know, do you feel safe or very safe in these areas? And I mean, we're in the 90s this is incredible. This is not what data looks like nationwide. It's really not what it looks like statewide. So I think that's, you know, that goes to credit our schools and our staff, for making students feel like they're safe. And then we had a climate survey for our staff, some things, and these are incredibly high numbers as well. So I feel safe in my classroom. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped. I'm sorry. So this was for parents. My child feels safe on school grounds and my child feels safe going to school on the bus. And so those were incredibly high results. And our very last one is about our staff, and our teachers are feeling safe in their classrooms. They do feel supported by, if they're in a threatening situation, like the administrators are gonna step up and help them with whatever needs to happen. And then for me, the piece that I'm extremely proud of is the follow-up, the case management after that. We don't just deal with it and then they're done. We hope for the best. I mean, we really are case managing. We pull those students and work with them. We work with the families. We work with outside agencies, and we continue to follow up on those things to make sure they're getting the things they need.
Maybe, could you run me through, like, a threat assessment comes into a school? Can you give me sort of a play-by-play of what happens
So
there?
a threat would be reported to an administrator typically, or a counselor. It comes to them in some form, whether another student brings it, a staff member, however it gets reported, usually to administration. At that point, we'd have to, of course, get parent permission with Parents' Bill of Rights to kind of move forward now. So let's change the process just a little bit. But we call parents and we say, is it okay if we talk to your child about these things?
Does the counselor typically do that kind of stuff?
Sometimes it's counselors. It's a little different at each school. A lot of times it's our social workers that are assigned to that school. So sometimes, you know, if they're at the school that day, or if they're not assigned to the school that day, they'll call them or they'll call me and I'll go, or one of the social workers will go if there's other things happening. And there's an interview process for the student that is being accused of saying something or doing something. There's an interview process if there's a specific victim or intended target. And then we work with the parents as well of both. And we go through and we just kind of try to get a whole picture. The safety team then kind of debriefs and says, okay, this is what we're seeing here. What's an appropriate course of action? Then we meet again with the parents and the kids together and say, this is what's going to happen. And there are certain things that state law says you're going to be suspended for doing certain things. So that would be part of it. But in addition, we recommend you pursue counseling services or a community agency or whatever they might need.
Now, I assume there's paperwork involved.
We have a platform that's been able to be paid through this grant. It's called Navigate 360, and all the stuff is logged in there, all the interview answers and all the plans. And then after a little while, we make a plan in that meeting with the family. We're going to follow up every 2 weeks with you, and we enter the notes in for those.
So different people follow up, or is it the school counselor follows up with the social worker follows up?
Typically at each school, it's assigned who's going to be the case manager for that. And sometimes it's different because sometimes the school counselor may have a very different relationship with the child, and that may not be the best person to do that. So sometimes that'll be the school social worker. Typically, it will be a school social worker that's following up on a lot of those things, but sometimes that may not be the most appropriate. We really just try to tailor it to who all of our members are very willing to do those things. But the one thing that I felt like we were lacking before this process was that case management follow-up. Thought we were doing a knockout job with addressing it in the moment, but were we really going back and making sure the child had what they needed, and were they back in the office 3 weeks later with a similar incident? So this just kind of helps support them.
Thank you.
Yeah. And we're hoping that the software that we're using is something that the school safety monies at state level, it will cover that.
Jamie, I'd also like to add there have been often cases where a student might be an exceptional child. And so Terry is involved in that process as well. So we're trying to take care of the whole child and all of their needs through this process.
It might be a little concerning that we've got an elementary school that has the highest. You would think it would be the high school
So I'll just say, what I find is that the littles like to tell on their buddies when they're scared or concerned, they tell an adult. High school kids don't open up to the adults as quickly, so it comes to us, but sometimes not as easily. So I know that looks backwards, but it's actually it's pretty typical. Because our little ones, they tell each other, they'll tell their teacher. High school kids, they'll tell their friends, not an adult.
Any other questions?
The areas of the schools that didn't feel safe, were those identified?
They were, and actually, when we were writing this last round of state local, we were looking at cameras and having different supervision. And it was really more, during class change, kind of just blind spots.
I'm sure.
Mhm. Was not surprising at all, but I think that's pretty typical when we're trying to address that.
Do you need approval for the report for you, or is it just an
Any
update?
questions? I guess it's just an update or it's an action.
It was an action.
Okay, so yeah, it's just.
Okay, so with approval, okay. Let me entertain a motion of Department of Justice grant update.
I'm so moved.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Any other questions, comments? All those in favor, raise your hand. All right, motion carries. Thank you. Next, we've got the WAN contract. Mr. Walker coming up.
Sure.
Good evening. Somehow between all my trips over here, my paperwork's still over at the office, but I think I don't think I need it. So back in December, I came and got permission from you to go ahead and let an RFP for our WAN. We're in a 5-year contract and that contract ends in June of 2024. So we need to go ahead and be ready for the E-rate season to have a new contract in place. That application has to be in by the end of March. So we had a 28-day RFP open cycle that ended last Tuesday, I believe. And we received 2 bids, of which the second bid was not very complete at all. We did receive all three of the requested quotes from the first provider. And we are in the process. I'm asking for a little leniency here. We are ready to execute that contract, but we're in a little bit of negotiation on the head-end switches. Some of those are 12 years old, so we're asking for a replacement cycle, what that looks like. So before we actually approve and sign a contract, I'd kind of like to see what that replacement cycle looks like. So if I can get your permission to go ahead and execute a contract upon getting that life cycle or attrition schedule for the switches. And be happy to answer any questions. So the bid that we will be accepting, what we will be accepting is a continuation. It looks just like the last 5-year contract, no different. Even the price is the same. So that met our needs very well. Even after some testing, we are still not pushing the limits of that speed. And we also have a guarantee that if we need within the 5 years to up those speeds at any of our schools, we can do so at the pricing that's already been offered to us.
Amy, I was confused a little bit about the pricing because we've got 1 or 2 or 3 different prices.
So they differ in the amount of gigabits.
Amount of what?
Gigabits per site.
I didn't
Yes.
hear what you said. Okay. So are all 3 of these we pay at the same time?
So it's just one, the third one
The
is the
third
one that will accept, or most of that is a continuation of the one we currently have. Since that one's worked very well for us, I see no need to drop. We actually only pay 20% of what you're seeing.
Okay, that's what I wanted to
Yes.
know.
The 80% gets billed to USAC, which is the FCC.
That makes it a little better.
It does.
A lot
Much better.
better.
Much better.
A lot better.
So we only pay the 20%.
Okay.
So you need a motion to approve this with that caveat that you mentioned on there. Okay.
I move that we accept this.
Do I have a second?
Permission.
I'll second.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, raise your hand. All right, you're good to go ahead. Next, we've got the calendar for the 24-25. Mr.
You
Petty.
said it like that, the calendar.
Well, yeah, you go explain. There's more than one attachment.
So, say this really clearly, I'm here on behalf of the calendar committee. I just want to take a minute and thank those 28 folks. Since last board meeting, we've met 5 times. And I think we've done 10 different calendars and we've looked at every different possible angle. So our first meeting, and all this is included in your board packet, but I want to go over the process real quickly. The first night we met, we went over the kind of the guidelines and looked at what's our priority, what's important, what do we want to see. And so I used some information from prior meetings, but we also took feedback back from our community. The committee was made up of administrator, a teacher, and a parent representative from each school. So we had a really good showing there. And then we came back with different designs and we discussed those. We looked at what was important with the 2 goals, with the main goal of heading into developing 2 calendars. We came back and took those drafts. We got feedback, came back and we went over that feedback and we extended our survey. I'm happy to say we had almost 500 responses as in the means of a vote for calendar 1 and for calendar 2. Also, within those, I think it was 487. We had almost 100 comments, and that's included in your pack. And I'll explain the colors real quick. The yellow color, those were comments in favor of option 1, and the kind of teal color was in favor of option 2. And justifications why. And I want to say kudos to folks. They gave really good reasons on why they thought each calendar would be the best calendar for our students next year. The ones that were not highlighted, that were just in black print, those were just generic. I think my favorite is one that said yay. I'm not sure what that meant. Yay, it snowed or what, but then after we extended the survey out, we had some that are printed there in red that were talking about a longer Christmas break, and they gave really good justifications. It wasn't just for a longer break away from school. There was some real good justifications. One of the pieces of feedback that we really listened to, not that we didn't listen to all of it, but we acted upon, and that's why the 2 sample calendars, or the 2 calendars that are in the packet there, you'll see they're 1A and 2A. And those are amended calendars because we moved Memorial Day back. We had quite a bit of feedback and a strong support from our community asking that Memorial Day be recognized on Memorial Day. In years past, Memorial Day was moved to the Monday after Easter, so that if we got into a weather situation, that we would have Good Friday and then that following Monday for somewhat of a spring break. We went that avenue, and like I said, with listening to our feedback, and again, everything was discussed openly at the meetings, and appreciate everyone that helped take notes and listen and offered feedback from that. So looking at the results, and again, all of this is in a PDF. It's in the packet there. Of the 98 total responses, we had 13% of the responses that were in support of option 1 and why we should follow option 1. 38% of those 98 were in support of option 2. And again, it wasn't people just saying, well, I think we should do option 2. There were many really good points made there. As I said, 25% were just general feedback, 5% came from Christmas. And then there was a small breakdown of folks requesting Memorial Day, which was almost 20%. And to me, that was a large number. That was enough that everyone on the committee unanimously agreed that we need to go back and look at that and move that. So again, that's why we have a committee. It makes it easy to make decisions. So one of the big questions on the survey we didn't ask what your role in Ashe County Schools, if you were a parent or a student or an employee, but we did ask what your representation was. So if a family had 3 students that were high school, middle school, and elementary, then they just indicated which school they came from. If you look at that, that's also a good representation of the student body. Our elementary schools were very close to each other in representation, as was the middle school. Middle school is a little bit smaller, but it's a little bit smaller than our 2 largest elementaries, and then the high school, of course, had a 1/3 of the vote, but they also have almost 800 students. So I think I think we had a good proportion in comments and feedback and responses from folks. But at the end of the day, when we broke this down, it was close. It was almost 50-50 the entire time. And option one, at the end of the day, option one had 47% of the votes and option two had 53%. Now, the audience that wasn't involved in the community surveys and hadn't had a chance to look, well, what's the difference in option one and two? Option two gives us 3 more student days. Giving us 3 more student days also gives us more hours. So that when we have another January, like we did last year,
No more groundhog days.
no more groundhog days, I agree. So that when we have weather days built in, when we have weather days built in, we have some flexibility built in with the calendar too. Therefore, it was 178 days, and like I said, 1,145 hours. I know the minimum for the state is 1,025 hours. I'm very thankful that we had some time built in this year in the 22-23 calendar as opposed to the 21-22. If we were operating on the 21-22 calendar this year, it would be, I'm not sure what we would do. We would still be trying to figure and move some things around. One thing about the option two calendar is it doesn't follow what legislation says on the August 19th. However, it does follow with our community college. I reached out to colleagues across our region to say, okay, what are our neighbors doing? And we're not going to jump on the bandwagon just because another community is doing it, but I do think that was worth looking at. Allegheny, they have 3 calendars. Their board is looking at 3 calendars. They're considering 3 calendars. 2 of those 3 start before the August 19th date. Wilkes County, they're proposing 2 calendars. Both calendars have a start date earlier than August 19th. Avery County, they're starting August 14th. Mount Airy starting August 13th. Surrey County, August 8th. Yadkin County is starting with the community college. They're starting on 8/16. Winston-Salem Forsyth, I'm not sure, they're starting August 12th, and Stokes County's starting August 14th. Watauga and Avery County, as well as Caldwell and Yancey, are starting on the August 19th date. This is something, again, we discussed, and we didn't hide the fact. We put that out there, and we took a vote among our committee, and the committee unanimously voted 21-7 tonight to bring calendar 2A to the board for consideration and approval. I do understand what the calendar law says, and everyone on the committee and the community understood that. We have students that are going to the community college, and the community college does start on the Thursday. It does start on Thursday before the August 19th, so I believe it's, thank you, it's right there. On the 15th, we looked at adding that 1 extra day so that they could visit their college classes. If they need to do any drop in, pick up books, so forth and so on, that you would. So what questions do we have?
Give me that number one more time how did the committee vote?
The committee voted 21-7. Okay. So there were 28 members on the call that night. They voted 21-7. Anonymously. Everything we did was anonymous. We didn't collect emails. We didn't collect anything. We did everything through Google. We had all the settings to where it was anonymous. You could not just vote one time, though. That's something I want to disclose. When you limit a survey to be taken one time by an IP address, it requires to collect the email, and I wanted it to be anonymous. But this survey we probably had almost 100 more votes than we did last year on last year's calendar.
I personally liked a couple things about this option. Number one, a 3-day work start week is much easier to handle when your students are coming back from summer, I think. And definitely coordinating for our high school students with the community college is a big plus.
Sure.
But on the negative side, we took an oath to follow state law. When we were installed, we took an oath in front of the judge that we would follow state law. And this bothers me that we're not following state law, even though everybody else is. I wish there were a solution that we could get permission for the second calendar. Is there any way we can do that? Because there's some things about the second calendar that Ms. Floyd has pointed out that I really like. So if we don't follow state law on this, what else are we not gonna follow state law? If you say some of this requirements, other requirements, I would love to vote against those things. And
I think there's 11.
requirements that we all could not.
I think there's 11 or 12 requirements and we meet all except the August 19th deadline or start early date. I was kind of surprised at some of our neighboring counties that do not have the weather waiver and they're starting 2.5, 3 weeks early. We're not asking to start 5 days. We're asking to start 3. And you're right. That is what legislators say, but we're educators. And I think I'll stand and say that I think the calendar 2A is better for our kids. It's better for, it's a better calendar.
So we have a problem when we doing a better calendar of following the law, like we said we would. It puts us in a pretty interesting position.
Well, I think it's something we need to talk to our legislators about getting changed, because this originally happened because they ran this through the tourism committee from the East Coast rather than through education committee as to what was right. And we really need to get that fixed. They need to get that fixed. But yes.
I don't feel strongly either way, but we are now a tourism community.
We are.
Mhm.
So is the committee coming with a recommendation for 2A?
We are coming with a recommendation of approving calendar 2A for the 24-25 school year.
Okay.
So if you don't mind, if I would like to say something, of course, I took an oath to follow the law. So I certainly told the committee I cannot make that recommendation to not. However, I think it's important that we do continue to advocate for what is best for children. And so, I don't want to put off a calendar too long, but if you don't think that March 1st is too long, we can certainly advocate forward if that's what your wishes are, for 3 days, to see if that makes a difference.
Are you saying to the
To
legislature?
our legislators, yes.
So this has to be decided by March.
No,
No.
I don't think we have a timeline, but I think in order for families to plan,
The more time,
the more time the better. So, I think that if, in the next couple of weeks, if you guys want to push this vote off, so to see if we can, advocate for 3 additional days, I think we can advocate for 3 additional days. I don't know that they're gonna say yes or no, and then it would come down to a vote of, it'd come down to a vote.
Maybe go wrong.
I know, just comment on my part that I understand both. And I like that they align, the one aligns with the community college. I understand that with the CCP and early college classes on there. My biggest sticky wicket is the August 19th start date per the law. And I know we made several decisions back when times were a little tougher and we had things to decide health-wise that we followed the law on, even though maybe my opinion it went against the law, but we stuck with the law on that. And I'm leaning to I can't start, just my personal opinion, past the 19th unless something does change.
I would be more comfortable having and advocating and seeing if they will approve it.
I'm not sure what that process is, but we can sure look to it through the measure of accountability.
Well, we can certainly, postpone this, vote until the March 4th meeting date, if that would help. And then that way, we can move it through our channels to see what's going to work through accountability and what, we might be able to get some leeway on. Legislators don't go back into session, for a little while, so that would make it difficult for any official decision, but certainly, we can do some talking before then and let them know the data that we have from our community and what the wishes of our community really are, with regard to a calendar.
I believe,
So the law's not going to change though between now and next month.
No.
So we're still going to be making the same decision.
Correct.
That's correct.
If someone cannot give us a waiver besides the legislature?
Well, I don't think so. Currently, we applied for the weather waiver, which only gives us, the ability to start on the 19th. We do not have any additional flexibility that I'm currently aware of that would allow us to start even 3 days earlier.
There's 10 districts that, that applied for the waiver and have received that early start waiver, the 19th.
And this January helped us out, qualify for yet another year.
It did, and to qualify for that, you have to miss 8 or more days, 4 out of the last 10 years. And so this was kind of a reset, kind of a reset. I have a little graphic I can send to you that shows what we've missed, but it goes back 10 years and it pinpoints. Some years we missed 40 years. And in the last 3 years, I don't know this makes the makes the decision even more difficult. We've been blessed with an easy winter in the last 3 years. We had a little bit more true winter this year, and it's more of like the days when and hey, it's just what, February 4th, 5th today, so.
Still have March to
I
go.
wonder what that rating said, but anyway.
Does the board want to move forward, postpone?
I guess I agree with Dr. Simmons. If it helps us, yes. If not, we need to go ahead and decide.
Polly has an opinion on
Ms.
Yeah,
Jones, do you have anything you'd like to add? You're still
You're still
muted.
muted.
Here we go. I don't think the legislature is going to change anything. It's been tried before. You just have to decide what you want to do and go ahead and do it like everybody else. What's best for the students.
So Penny is asking for 2A.
Committee recommending.
So from the committee, I guess we'd entertain a motion to approve calendar 2A. Do I have a motion to such?
I can make that motion.
Okay. Do I have a second to that motion?
No.
Do I have a second? Hearing none. That motion is stalled on the floor. Any other motions?
I'd like to make a motion, we adopt 2A. Right? No,
That's what they just-
1A. I'm sorry. I'm looking at it weird.
So state that one more time.
I would like to make a motion that we adopt the calendar that starts school on the 19th.
Okay.
That bad?
Thank you. That's what, just for the record.
Yeah, I know.
Do I have a second to the motion for calendar 1A? Do I have a second for calendar 1A? Okay.
So we will work our magic. I don't know if there are any that exist for this. However, at least I think it does send a message that what's important. So we'll bring it back to you for the March board meeting.
That'll work.
What can we do in the meantime to help this process?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, I think this has been a long question for the last, 15 years probably since the law changed. So I do think it's worthy of, discussion, and I think you guys are brave in having it out there as a discussion without breaking the law.
One thing I do want to mention just before I sit down, under the regulations of comprehensive innovative high schools, under our early college, they can start when they need to. And it doesn't have to go in front of a committee. It doesn't have, that's part of the CIHS regulations. So part of this is to try to balance that. So Ms. Williams decided she wanted to start school on August 14th. She can start school on August 14th, not only just for the juniors and seniors and sophomores taking CCP courses, but for the entire school. So we're trying to, but as one thing we looked at was trying to balance those two numbers so that you didn't have 130 students starting before the other and when y'all go to class together. So that was one piece. That was one piece that.
And we have how many students? 200 that take at the high school that take college courses.
Are you saying that Ms. Williams is gonna start on the fourteenth?
No, ma'am, I'm saying that.
That schedule or not?
I'm saying under the CIHS regulations,
She
she could,
With
Yeah.
approval.
she could.
No,
But no, I wouldn't make that decision. Wilkes is gonna start on the 15th regardless. And pending transportation, they're gonna expect kids to be there.
Yeah.
Whether they're CCP, whether they're 9th grade or 12th grade, whether they're early college, if they're enrolled in a community college course, they're gonna expect them to be there on the 15th. Now, do they work with their kids? Absolutely. However, and this January is a good example, I'm sure Mr. Farmer could attest to the fact that it's been a nightmare. Kids cannot get to their classes, and should they have to withdraw from those courses? No, but at the same time, they're college courses, so it's not as easy to recoup that, and it takes a couple days minimum at the beginning of a semester to get those textbooks and get their codes and find their classes, and they're now have went from using Canvas as a there you go, LMS and Microsoft and their school email to now having moved to learn Moodle and all the Wilt stuff. So it's a huge learning curve. And I know, and I think several of us in here have personal children who have taken community college courses. And if they're taking that level of course and they can't get to a class, it causes a lot of anxiety, a lot of frustrations that they're starting behind. They might have a technology issue, a lot of weak times with Chromebooks and the Wilkes network. It's not always compatible, so there's a lot of stuff to work through. So I don't think we would ever make the decision to have a different calendar because we're still not gonna provide transportation or be able to feed kids for those days, right? But Wilkes is gonna start when Wilkes is gonna start, and you're gonna have a lot of kids that are gonna want to be there. And I think we're putting families out by not helping them out.
And it's not unusual to see, two calendars, an early college and then a normal high school calendar as well too.
And is there any way we can provide like activity bus transportation or something for the few days that these?
Then that starts cutting into your 215-day teacher calendar, your 200 classified calendar, and it gets sticky.
I have a difficult time not supporting the recommendation that's been brought to us by the committee. I mean, like last year, I made the same exact comment. Why do we have a committee if we're not going to
Sure.
listen? But I also get following the law, but
Okay.
my law
Sure.
is to do what's best for Ashe County City.
And as an accountability director, I do everything I can to follow the law, but those laws are put in place for students.
Excuse me, you only swore to uphold the Constitution of the state of North Carolina. I don't think that includes every stupid law the legislature's passed. The Constitution is one thing, law
Didn't
is
say
something else.
constitution.
Please consult a lawyer on that point. I think that's right.
Yeah, if you do that, I mean, and take off that, but that's not what my judge said. He said the law of North Carolina. He didn't say the
law is-
Constitution.
The starting time for schools is not in the Constitution, I'm sure.
We can seek clarification on that.
No,
Please
please
do.
do.
And I don't want to ever speak, but I will say, because Ms. Dixon.
Lindsay's right on that.
We battled, we even had a little private chat going in the calendar committee because we kept saying, we don't want to break the law, we don't want to break the law. But I kind of devil's advocate there said, well, aren't we kind of already? Because we have 300 plus kids that we are unofficially starting, the week before everybody else. So no, we didn't approve it as a Board of Education. However, we kind of are supporting Wilkes,
Conditions with the.
expecting our kids to be there.
How many other days do we not follow the Wilkes calendar
Well,
besides the beginning?
there's a lot they don't have nearly as many days in their calendar.
Sure.
But the beginning of the school year is the biggest challenge, and the second to that is probably spring break. And the kids don't get a break. You have a large population of kids in the county that are starting earlier than everybody else, without transportation, without food. And then come springtime, they're still having to go to their college classes because their breaks don't line up. So I don't know, I guess you guys can kind of see what's advocating, so I'll be quiet.
But I will say, I'll speak on behalf of the committee. That was mentioned. We love calendar, we support calendar 2A, but we don't want to break the law.
We understand that.
And that was, it was not easy. The first draft of the calendar back on early January was starting on the 12th. And we had some real critical conversations that night, and we agreed upon starting on Wednesday. That gave 1 day prior to the start of WCC and so forth. But
It seems to me that this is a conundrum that our legislators need to try to work through, because they're encouraging early college, but they're not encouraging that we help these students follow both calendars. So we need to have some conversations with legislators about fixing this issue so it's not an annual event.
I also like to say, yes, we have a lot of students at the early college, but we'd be remiss if we didn't mention again the students at the high school. And when we have, a good chunk of our juniors and seniors taking those courses, they're behind differently because they don't have that same opportunity. So even though the early college could start sooner, we even discussed, well, what would it look like if we started everybody in the secondary sooner? But then that's even more difficult on families to have 2 different calendars. And so we've had some really tough discussions surrounding what's best for the children and what's best for the families here. And that's been really hard. I mean, it's been really hard because we really want to do what's going to help our students to be most successful. And in a district where we qualify for CEP, and even at our high school, our free and reduced lunch percentage at the high school was 55% prior to us moving to CEP. A good chunk of our kids who access these early college classes or community college classes are students who are of poverty. And so it's important for us to think about transportation and food and having support at their high school to access these courses differently. It's a real conversation, especially here in Ashe County.
Justin, do you have any idea, Mr. Farmer, do you have any idea about how many students this affects at your school?
Yeah, we did it. It was about 200. Now that's 200 different students. They also take multiple classes, but and that would be for, yes, I don't know about first semester. It was 200 in the fall. It was 200 in the fall.
Numbers.
I didn't run spring, but yes, 200 this fall that would affect it.
Does Wilkes Community have any flexibility? Is there any way we could get them to delay 2 days? Julie's saying no.
I don't see it happening with them having main campus and satellite campuses and.
For our campus.
Well, it would
They'll
have to be
go.
both of them because they don't
The
have.
whole service area.
Yeah, that's the one that has.
Yeah. Well, that board does not, they approve the calendar. It's already decided when it comes to them. There's no discussion on it, on the board of trustees.
And most of the
So that-
time they have, their calendar days are different for the number of required hours for their faculty.
And they're measured different on funding,
They are measured different.
than public schools, which causes a
Now,
different, different
it's like, we'll take one early college before high school, so if their early college starts at a different time, it's not as big a deal as it would be in a county where there's one early college and one high school.
They have a huge transportation problem though,
I'm sure.
because they have to transport all of those to that central from all those three high
That's
schools.
why they're starting early
Yeah.
next year.
So that's,
Well, I mean, that's the reality situation here. We have two different calendars. I mean, because Wilkes is gonna do what they're gonna do. So, you know, it's done. I don't wanna break the law either. I think you all know me well enough to know that I wouldn't wanna do that. It's not my decision. I'm glad I don't have a decision. But just to advocate for those, you know, 330 plus students. And all of their, you know, then a lot of those kids keep their siblings. So if they're going to class now, you know, there's a lot of there and they're gonna go that week before if they want to get started on the right foot. And so we in a roundabout way and being partners with Wilkes are supporting them starting earlier than everybody else and not helping them out with transportation and food. So.
Amy, is there any way we can help out with food?
It's a big.
Yeah, that's, you know, we have a 200-day contract for our classified staff, so with calendar two, it's better for us because of the days that the students are in the building anyhow. So, I mean, you know, it would put me, I don't know, that we'd have to apply differently, you know. I would have to contact DPI to find out exactly what the standard is for that type of applying. I understand that it would just be one kitchen. But you know, then you're looking at, you know, putting it, you know, them beyond their 200-day contract. So that would be, you know, I'd have to pay them another week, basically, you know, just straight off the top of the budget. That would be, you know, I don't even know how that would affect them with their benefits package. You know, that's totally time that would not include their benefits package. And so I'd have to follow some laws too to figure that out myself. If it would, you know, it's definitely, if you're looking at it, it's not cost effective. I mean, we can all sit here and say that it would not be cost effective for the program itself. But for the kids, you know, we'd figure out a way. But, you know, and I don't know about buses at all. I mean,
the state superintendent helping you with this or not?
Potentially. I mean, she's certainly aware that a lot of districts are advocating for an earlier start in alignment with the community college, especially for programming, having that flexibility in different communities. You know, for us, we get hit harder. We do get the week beforehand because of our inclement weather trends that we have over time. However, I think Avery and Watauga and us have seemed to miss quite a few more days than anybody else this year. And that's again, it's a trend over time. And the 1 week hasn't been enough for us to not have to extend our calendar at the end on many years. I know the last couple of years I've been here, not so much, but this year was a pretty tough. I think we've missed 8 or 9 2-hour delays. We had 7 or 8 remote days, which count towards being in school.
We've had 15 days out counting remote days.
And
then
okay,
8 or 9 2-hour delays, and it's not to mention I can't think of another word except miss. We had the last week of finding exams in December at the high school. That would be that was a mess.
So I think that, you know, we have some special circumstances here in the mountains that I think are worth arguing or worth bringing forward differently than we perhaps have in the past.
I guess we need more information in March, since we've got 2 motions that failed on that.
Okay.
So,
Fair enough. And should we have answers before then, we'll certainly bring them to the board so that we know how to act.
I'd like to thank the calendar committee, and I know Dr. Simmons served on behalf of the board on that committee, and I know you all did a lot of work and a lot of moving pieces and parts and food goes into all of that and making those plans. So it's our gratitude to you all.
It's a great group to work with.
Yeah. And
Right, thank you for your consideration.
next, we've got some updates and discussion items for the board, and the item under that is the honoring committee recommendation.
So I think as you remember, we had a directive from the board to put this or for a committee that would meet to look at ways we could honor people within our district and to specifically look at policy 9300, which is the naming of facilities policy, to see if there was something that we could put together that might be representative of our community and what would be in the best interest of how we honor people here in Ashe County. And so Janet and I were tasked with leading this committee, and we met quite a few times together, both in person and in Zoom. The committee came forward with some recommendations, which are on your computer within Assembly. And so the final recommendation was twofold. First of all, it's the recommendation of the honoring committee that the Board of Education add the following to policy 9300, because that policy was unclear, but I think the committee wanted to keep it pretty simple. And it states the Board of Education will not consider the renaming of facilities a separate recommendation to honor individuals who have significant accomplishments in their fields or who have provided significant service to Ashe County schools should be made through the Distinguished Hall of Honor. And then the criteria, of course, are attached. And so what this does was remove, I think, the question of renaming a facility. So this would be the naming of the facilities would remain in place as is, except I would say we would not rename a facility. I think that was a question that came out during this process. And instead, we would add this process of creating a Distinguished Hall of Honor. Before I go into the Distinguished Hall of Honor, I do want to say that the committee was pretty adamant that this would not take or replace a school's ability to honor someone. So for example, we had a teacher to pass away of COVID a few years back, and they have a bench in her honor at the high school. We don't want to take away a school's ability to honor someone. I know that when Jennifer Holden passed away in December, I know they have a committee at the school who is working on a way to honor Jennifer differently at the school. So this would be something above and beyond, something that a school might do to honor someone living or past. This would be different. And I think the committee was very appreciative of having that kind of flexibility. And the schools, I think, were very appreciative and still having the ability to honor people at their school level. And we do honor, we started this past year. Several of you received your pins for years of service, and we will continue that this fall as we do that once again for anyone on their 5-year mark. So we don't want to take away those opportunities. But the Distinguished Hall of Honor recognition would be limited to individuals living or deceased who have attended or who have served in Ashe County schools and have made significant accomplishments in the following areas while maintaining high standards of personal integrity and character. And so there were two different ways. One was outstanding leadership in his or her field. So we had some students who were especially passionate about this. So what if they graduate from Ashe County High School or Ashe County Early College, and they go off and they find a cure for cancer, and something big happens, and we want to recognize them as having that, we want to own them, right? We want to say how proud we are that they're one of our own. That would be something that could be significant enough to earn this honor. Another was outstanding service to Ashe County Schools. So this could be somebody who is a volunteer. It could be somebody who's worked for Ashe County Schools. It could be even somebody who is a philanthropist who has made sure that something is continued in a process. But those would be the two different criteria that we would want to honor. They outlined a nominating process that would be yearly. So nominations could be made by anyone. An online nomination form would be put online, of course, and would include the name of the nominee, the description of the education, career, and professional achievements, a list of the volunteer and philanthropic activities if applicable, recognition of awards received, 2 letters of recommendation beyond the person who is actually nominating this individual, and an application fee. The application fee would be set so that the district didn't have to incur a fee for the plaque or the award that is actually given at the time. Now, if there wants to be an alumni committee or a group, perhaps, a foundation that might want to take on this as a project, we might be able to waive that fee, but so that the district didn't have to come up with something right away, we thought that that would be minimal and fair. That the committee would consist of the following people. So it would be appointed by the Board of Education and consist of 3 former Ashe County Schools alumni, the Ashe County Schools superintendent, 3 current Ashe County Schools employees, and 2 Ashe County Schools Board of Education members. And if, in fact, a committee member is determined to be an immediate or close relative of the nominee, an alternate would be appointed by the board. And that way, we have lots of close family ties here, and this gives us an opportunity to put that out there. The voting process, we went back and really thought about some of the feedback that we were provided, and we felt like if this Hall of Honor was important enough, then everybody needed to vote. So anybody appointed needed to be there, and it had to be of a unanimous vote of the full committee. So all 9 members must vote, and all 9 members must concur that that's a person that should be honored. And then, of course, there's some other things within that voting process. It would be a yearly application period, and the committee would meet within 2 weeks of the application deadline. So that way there could be an event or something that could be announced later on. It was suggested that we perhaps have a way to honor them. Maybe they could be a part of we have an Ashe County Schools dinner to highlight our of the years. That maybe if somebody was nominated during this time, they could be included in that part of the process. I don't think we wanted to outline that in this because it would be attached to a policy, but I do think that we could develop something that would recognize something that of this importance and signify it being that important. Janet, do you have anything to add?
I do want to thank all the people that participated. And I wanted to especially express my appreciation to the high school students who were leaders, who were very articulate and committed to what they believed was best for everybody involved. And I really appreciated seeing the strength of their leadership skills. And that's also kudos to all the teachers that work with them over time.
I want to thank the committee because I think we all know where some of this stemmed from, but, I would like to say that I don't think that the honoring committee recommendation needs to be a part of policy 9300, which is naming facilities. But, right?
That would be up to the board. Certainly, I think adding the language to the board, adding the language that's recommended is more the recommendation. And we mentioned the Distinguished Hall of Honor in that policy, but it doesn't have to be that way. I do think that it's,
Yes, I agree with the policy, and I think it's very well done, and I think the Hall of Honor, the outline that's been provided, I think it's great. I really appreciate all the work that went into it, but it has no business in policy 9300, which is naming facilities, because it has nothing to do with naming facilities. So I'd just like for us to revamp that or reorganize or reconsider.
Oh, did not we not word it so that policy 9300 said that if that any other kind of honors they would have to refer to this? How do we have a place where records are kept that aren't in the policy that?
We just need a policy on honoring individuals, wherever that may fall, but it's obviously doesn't need to fall with naming facilities.
Well, it could be like a 9310, where you put the Distinguished Hall of Honor and it refers them to that policy number if they're looking for.
Is this more procedural than a policy? So could it be the procedural piece of 9300?
Either way, I'm
It
fine with
has
either
nothing to
way.
do, this has nothing to do with naming facilities, this policy.
Or proceed with the policy. I agree with the procedure more so than adding it to
well,
policy.
we could actually add it in a different place in our policy manual. I'd have to refer to Fred. We could do it under people, under, what is it?
There you go.
There's probably a different place, but I do know that some school districts have added different ways to honor
Just put a notation.
in that policy, but probably for similar reasons, but a lot of our policies, you'll notice, reference other policies. And so we could find an appropriate place. We put this down under updates and discussions and consideration. If that's what the board would wish us to do, we can bring that back as probably the next policy. Diane, there you go. We can bring that back as an updated policy 90 to 9300 and with a new number that might capture the essence of this. Or maybe you're right, maybe it doesn't need to be a policy. Maybe this is just something we've created out of a need to honor, and it's just referenced in a policy, but not necessarily a policy itself. It could be its own page on our webpage, and that was another suggestion of some of the students was to have a page on our website that would be just that of people we honor through this Distinguished Hall of Honor.
So what would be your recommendation, Dr. Simmons, about this?
Did it not be under the naming facilities policy, and that we included somewhere, but
Just have a recommendation to come back, but
And this was just a starting point because the situation that triggered this, they were referring to this policy. So it doesn't necessarily mean that this has to be in there.
Right.
did a couple of questions about the Hall of Honor, just my curiosity. Has a place been designated for that? Okay.
No, I think the place that had the most recognition was right here in this room, that we could have a place here because the Board of Education meets here. It is a central location, and we would be honoring people from throughout our district. So this one made the most sense.
The only other thing I thought, I'm on a committee for the community college when they consider people that naming facilities down there. They do background checks. on the individuals. I didn't see that on here. Maybe I don't, if you want to include that because
Well, we certainly can do that because we've had some surprises even in the background checks that we do on a regular basis.
the college had to turn down a substantial donor who wanted the building named, and background checks didn't come out fine, and it was a pretty substantial donation. So that lets you know integrity over money, in my opinion. On there. That's all I had.
That's a good point.
You know. So you'll bring us back more in March for that?
We can.
Okay. Anybody have anything else on that? Hearing none, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just glad we're doing it. It's overdue, and I'm just glad we're doing this because we've had some very fine educators and leaders come through, and it's time. So we can go ahead and the people can nominate folks who are already gone for this. He said Pat, living.
Living in past, yes.
Living in
Mhm.
past.
The application form would need to be made and put online.
Right, yeah, and I mean, we would bring it back to you all for approval first. Right now, it's just under consideration.
I understand that.
And find an appropriate place, whether that be in a different policy or maybe it's just a place online where we could house this.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you all. Thank you to the committee as well, on that. Right now, if you want to, the board is going to have to go into closed session for some, personnel, discussion. So before we do that, I'm going to ask for a recess for about